Welcome to today's explainer. To the untrained eye, aviation blueprints just look like, well, a whole lot of paperwork. But we know better, right? Reading aircraft maintenance drawings isn't just about staring at lines on a page. It's literally a life or death language of coordinates, rules, and incredibly precise instructions.
Just think about the stark reality here. A misunderstanding can lead to structural damage, safety hazards, or airworthiness issues. We're talking about terrifying stakes. If a tech misreads a blueprint, the consequences aren't just a slap on the wrist or a failed inspection. They can be absolutely catastrophic in the sky. And that is exactly why we've got to take a highly structured, super systematic approach to these documents. We aren't just learning to read, we're literally learning how to keep these machines safely in the air.
So here is our flight plan for this explainer. We'll be covering 1. How revision blocks ensure safety. 2. Deciphering critical engineering notes. 3. Navigating with zone numbers. 4. The aircraft station numbering system. 5. Practical maintenance applications. And we'll wrap up with 6. Practical applications and a quick quiz. Let's dive right in.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1. Revision blocks ensure safety. Okay, so before you ever pick up a tool or even touch an aircraft, you absolutely have to make sure you're looking at the most current information. Think of the revision block as the crucial software update log for an airplane part. Revisions are constantly being driven by necessary changes in design, materials, or even dimensions. This block is what ensures total traceability and compliance with those super strict airworthiness standards. Honestly, if you aren't using the latest revision, you're essentially working with obsolete data. And as we just talked about, that is a massive safety hazard. When you're out in the field, you'll see these revision blocks are neatly organized into columns. Over on the far left, there's usually an identification symbol, like an A, B, or C, that marks the specific change. Then you'll spot the description of the revision, something like added additional mounting points. You also get the exact date and that all-important APPR column showing exactly who authorized the change. Actually, a lot of firms will even slap that revision letter right in the main title block, so it's practically impossible to miss. So, reading a drawing is really a step-by-step process. Step 1, identifying the drawing and confirming that you've got the latest revision letter. Gotta get that out of the way first. Once you know you have the right document, step 2 is studying all the provided views. You can't ever just interpret a part from a single view. You have to compare adjacent views to get a real sense of depth. Like a simple circle on a page. Well, that might be a recessed hole or it could be a protruding boss. You just won't know for sure until you check the side view. And then, step 3. You must interpret the written dimensions and tolerances. No relying on your own visual measurements here. Moving right along to Section 2, deciphering critical engineering notes. So why do we even need notes in the first place? Well, imagine trying to draw every single tiny detail on the part itself. The drawing would be an absolute, unreadable mess. Instead, draftsmen use notes to convey critical info without cluttering up the whole page. These notes give us the nitty-gritty, specific attachment methods, construction alternatives so the drawing can apply to different styles of the same object, and the list of any available modifications. It's pretty brilliant how elegantly these notes are integrated into the drawing itself. A simple, light line with an arrowhead leads directly from the text right to the physical part it references. It just intuitively directs your attention. And if a note happens to apply to more than one part, well, it'll be incredibly carefully worded to eliminate any kind of ambiguity. Oh, and if there are super lengthy notes, they're usually just grouped together in a corner and numbered consecutively so you can reference them without any headache. All right, up next is Section 3. Navigating with zone numbers. When you're staring down a massive assembly drawing, trying to find one tiny little component can feel totally overwhelming. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. To solve this, we use zone numbers. Think of these exactly like the grid references you'd use on a 2D paper map. You've got letters and numerals printed along the borders of the drawing light. So you just mentally draw a horizontal line from a letter and a vertical line from a number, and boom, where they intersect, that's your zone. And this is key, it's vital to contrast these 2D paper zone numbers with station numbers, which are what we use to pinpoint physical 3D spots on the actual aircraft itself. Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, the aircraft station numbering system. This 3D coordinate system is literally how different teams communicate exact locations without any ambiguity whatsoever. There are 3 primary axes that create this universal language. First up is the fuselage station, or FS. This dictates longitudinal positions, so forward and aft, measured from a fixed 0 point, which is very often the nose. Next, we have the waterline, or WL. This is a horizontal reference line used to define vertical height on the aircraft. And finally, we have the buttock line, or BL, which defines lateral, left, and right positions, measured outward from the center line of the aircraft. Let's put this together into a complete 3D mental model. If you look at a side profile, you can clearly see the vertical waterlines on the y-axis and the fuselage stations mapped out along the bottom x-axis, starting from the nose and moving backward. Now shift your perspective to a top-down view. This is where the buttock lines come into play, spanning outward left and right from that zero center line running straight down the middle of the plane. By combining an FS, a WL, and a BL, you can locate literally any single point in space on that aircraft with absolute pinpoint accuracy.
Let's look at how this plays out in the real world in Section 5, Practical Maintenance Applications.
Okay, I really cannot stress this point enough. Never, ever measure the printed drawing yourself. You have to rely strictly on the written dimensions provided by the engineers. Why? Well, in today's world of digital zooming, scanning, and printing, the physical scale of a piece of paper or a screen is almost certainly distorted. If you just put a ruler to the paper, you are going to cut the metal wrong, and you will compromise the aircraft. Period. Instead, you always rely on the written dimensions and their tolerances. Tolerance represents the allowable variation from the nominal dimension. For example, if a drawing asks for a nominal dimension of 2.00 inches, but it has a tolerance of plus or minus 0.01 inches, that means 2.01 inches is the absolute maximum allowable variation. Honestly, anything larger than 2.01 inches is just scrap metal. This level of precision is what ensures every single part is perfectly interchangeable. All right, time to wrap things up with Section 6, Practical Applications and a quick quiz. Let's test your knowledge a bit with a scenario, kind of like what you'd see on a CR66 licensing exam. Think back to how we navigate large assembly drawings on paper. Zone numbers on drawings are similar to A, serial numbers, B, part numbers, C, map grid references, or D, material codes. Give it a thought. If you went with C, you hit the nail right on the head. Zone numbers act exactly like map grid references. You're just mentally drawing those intersecting horizontal and vertical lines from the borders to pinpoint your specific area of interest on a crowded blueprint. Okay, next question for you. What does the designation FS185 represent? Is it A, frame size 185, B, a part number, C, 185 inches from the aircraft's datum, or D, 185 millimeters from the nose?
And the correct answer is C. FS stands for Fuselage Station, and 185 means it's exactly 185 inches aft of the aircraft datum, which, like we mentioned earlier, is usually the nose or the zero station. That's exactly how we locate our longitudinal positions.
All right, one last question, and this is arguably the most critical scenario when it comes to safety. Let's say a drawing has just been revised by engineering, but you notice old prints are still circulating out there on the hangar floor. What is the correct action to take?
The only correct action here is to make absolutely sure all existing prints are collected and updated to reflect the newly approved revision. Relying on outdated prints can and will lead to incorrect installations and massive structural damage. I mean, ask yourself, can you afford a catastrophic error up in the sky just because someone forgot to check the revision block? Mastering these technical drawings goes way beyond just passing a test. It is a vital, literally life-saving responsibility. So the next time you look at an aviation blueprint, just remember the sheer power and precision hidden in all those lines and numbers. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep your standards high.